Hello.
Simran, please start the session.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear
yes.
you.
You're audible.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Honorable Vice Chancellor and President Kalgidhar Trust, Dr. Devinder Singh, our esteemed invited speakers, Mr. Ravinder Singh and Mr. Partha Dey, respected deans and faculty members of various constituent colleges of Eternal University, and dear participants. I am Simranjit Kaur, PhD Inspire Fellow from the Department of Zoology. I, on the behalf of Institute Innovation Cell, Eternal University, extend you a very warm welcome for this prestigious webinar with the theme Innovation, Entrepreneurship and IPR. This webinar is a part of Impact Lecture series and we are having our second session. This educational webinar is sponsored by Institutions Innovation Council, Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell, and All India Council for Technical Education. I would like to welcome our esteemed invited speakers, Mr. Ravinder Singh and Mr. Partha Dey, for joining us and accepting our invitation on such short notice. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker, Mr. Ravinder Singh, co-founder Tekshila Badu Sahib and entrepreneur evangelist. He is a community builder, an experienced technologist, a volunteer teacher, entrepreneur, and AI machine learning researcher. He will be delivering his talk on the topic How Computer Science is Changing Everything. Present case studies on how technology is leveraged to do social good. Sir, I welcome you on board. Please, you may start and deliver your lecture.
First of all, thank you. Thank you, Simran, for having a good introduction to me. And I think I'm not a stranger to most of you, I hope. So I take this opportunity to share some of my experiences from the industry. Uh, the way I see this session is there is a ton of information which I would like to sort of throw at you today. And rather than talking about a certain case study, which I and Partha had been discussing about, that we will kind of take these two sessions in such a way that I will put some kind of a foundational uh, foundational knowledge on in general about the innovation and using certain frameworks, how to innovate and think about ideas. And then Partha is going to be covering about the various case studies by which you can get some real life examples. So I'm really hoping that it's a session where you can take a few learnings or a certain different perspective from how we think about innovation and how we think about in general our thought process, how we do a collaborative thought process. So I'm really excited to share this knowledge, but with a word of caution that there is a lot coming your way. And I really hope that you try to pay attention even for the next 45 minutes. A lot of information I've tried to compress, and a lot of jargons will be thrown at you because of this, the way world thrives in jargons and all that. So to make sure that we are good with our connectivity and all the things, I'm going to turn off my video and then I'm going to turn off my slideshow. Just as I start, just want to check with Dr. Kamal Kishore that I hope we are recording the session, sir. Kishore, sir, are we recording the session?
Sir, session is it is in recording, so you may please.
Okay, all right. Great. So, welcome all, and a very good afternoon once again to all the dear students and faculty members. I will be sharing some thoughts on entrepreneurship and innovation. So a thing about, when we talk about innovation, I thought it just just to give a perspective, or kind of just to start off. Let's talk about what is innovation and why innovation. Why do we keep hearing this word all the time? So why innovation is really needed in this world, and how do we define this innovation well in a simple term? So that's my attempt. So when we say why innovation, so innovation is almost like, that you're thinking differently, but you're thinking differently to achieve a certain purpose, to solve a certain problem. There is a saying which is very much applicable to the kind of organizations that we are associated with. It's called the scarcity breeds creativity. Okay. And creativity in a way is used synonymously with innovation. So if I have to describe this in little formal words, it just says that the process of innovation is about, that you're recreating the business processes, your business models, and you are also attempting to build an entirely new audience. Sometimes we know that even we see so many products coming into the market, so many people having certain ideas, and when we say, oh yeah, this is a problem which even I am facing, and I never knew that this problem can be solved in this manner. So essentially, innovation is all about how do you restructure your processes, how do you bring efficiencies in it, how do you think differently, and even you're always constantly looking at the unmet human needs, because you're discovering, right? If you are innovating, it's towards a purpose. So above all, I think it's mostly like that you have an aspiration to execute, to select and execute the right ideas and bring them to life in record time. Because even if you have an idea and you're like sitting on it for next 20 years, the world is changing too fast. So you are not you need to also make sure that there is a speed to the thought as well. So that's in general about just setting, warming us up as to why innovation and what innovation really means in a different context. So let's move forward. Now we keep hearing this word entrepreneurship, and I can be honest with you. When I heard this term like about 8 years, 9 years back, I had such a hard time in pronouncing this word. Okay, I didn't know what to say. Entrepreneur, and also there were different versions. So I took me some time, and I still feel that I have not perfected this word. So it's called entrepreneur. And the entrepreneur, let's just try to understand this word again in simple word, just to get ourselves familiar, because innovation and entrepreneurship, uh, you know uh, uh, creativity, all these are kind of synonymous words. So let's try to understand what are some of the attributes. Who do you call an entrepreneur? Okay. So entrepreneur in my mind is a problem solver. There has to be a problem worth solving, or where you feel that it's worth solving. And in the simplest of definition, anyone, any kid, any child, any teacher, any a person in its common doings, if you are solving a problem, you are an entrepreneur. So one of the just to give you an example so that it reflects in your mind all the time. um, who's the you know who's the best entrepreneur uh, in the world for you within the family, right? I think, of course, there can be different visions to it, but look, mother is inherently, continuously a problem solver. She's always solving a problem, right? So I think just associate the meaning of an entrepreneur with somebody like your mother, who's always facing with very very different problems and challenges, and then she keeps on solving that. So of course, a problem solver, you have to be an inherent leader, you have to be an experimenter, because you cannot solve a problem right at the first go. You will fail, but you still have to learn from it, and then you have to change your approach, and then you have to solve that problem. So you have to be continuously experimenting about it. An entrepreneur is always looking to create value, always looking to create an impact. That am I really, if I'm doing this, is it really bringing the right amount of change? Is it something which is a desired effect? Can I replicate this effect? I might have done this small solution, but can I do it again and again? So I have to create this value, and it has to be meaningful for the people that you have in your mind, that you're problem solving this problem for. And this is, I think, very under talked about ideas, or talked about attribute, in our, in general, that we see in our society at times. An entrepreneur has to be a passionate storyteller. There has to be a story, you know like when you're communicating with your stakeholders, when you're communicating with people for whom you're trying to solve the problem, you should really be able to, uh, you know um, you should really be able to communicate with a passion, with an understanding, and you should be a master communicator. It doesn't mean that you have to have the best hold of the English language itself. No, it has to be really understanding the heart of the problem, and then be able to express it, be able to articulate it, whatever mode you choose, whichever method you choose. So you have to be a very good storyteller to be able to connect all the stakeholders which are involved, for being an entrepreneur. And yes, unless you're a lifelong learner, you will keep failing, you will never be growing, you will not have a growth mindset. So you have to be constantly open to ideas, you have to be open to criticism, you have to be open to connect with people. You should be, if you are trying to create a startup or an organization, you should be willing to hire somebody who's smarter than you, and you're a genuinely curious individual. You really want to learn. Any opportunity you're looking as a learning opportunity. So these are, in my mind, I think, if you just picture these four attributes, try to relate with it, try to keep that in front of your eyes, that how do you define an entrepreneur? And then you will see that all of us have these signs. We may not have something like, I might be able to tell a story in a different way, or I might have those attributes. I may not be a great problem solver, but I might be a good storyteller. And if I'm a good learning enthusiast, so all of this, is a are attributes, they are signs that you can have an entrepreneurial spirit. Because in the end, you really want to create value, you really want to solve problem, you really want to matter in this world and for people around you. Okay, so with this aside, I think, I just wanted to demystify this complex jargon, and I want to make sure that you attach these notions in your mind, because these are very practical notions, uh, that you will, and anyone will experience, I have experienced. Okay, now what I wanted to also touch upon is, uh, I think, I wanted to show you a video on this, and I hope I'm able to project it. So I just want you to observe for the next 4 to 5 minutes, if this video plays, that how computer science or technology is touching everything. Why technology and innovation are going hand in hand. Why we need to, make sure that, from whichever background I'm coming, I'm sure maybe in this forum also we will have students who are not from technology background, they are from a, different background, like Simranjeet ma'am did talk about, she's from a different background on that. But even any field is today touched by technology and computer science. So we're just going to see briefly this, and I hope that you can, uh, just let me know if you can hear it and see this video. Can you hear the sound? Anyone can unmute and say, are you able to hear the sound of the video?
Yes, sir. It's audible.
Yeah. You can? Okay. And you can see the video also, right?
Yes, sir.
Great. So enjoy.
think 19th century was about the Industrial Revolution, about electricity, about disrupting the agricultural society and making it more advanced. The 20th century was about physics and engineering to do more things easier in our everyday life, from refrigerators to washing machines. And the 21st century is definitely the digital age. It's the internet.
Even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball, or build a house, all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
The lettuce bot is a robot that can sense its environment. Every single hour, this lettuce bot is seeing 1.5 million plants, and it's taking individual action on those plants. We enable lettuce growers to have higher yields in their field by helping make it cheaper, by helping produce food in a more sustainable way. And that wasn't previously possible without computer science and technology.
I have a really fun job where we build Polyvore, which kind of combines all my favorite things, so programming as well as fashion and art and design and shopping. Half the products we use these days are software products that you play with on your phone. And so if you want to build something cool, you need to know programming, right? And there's so many things that you can do with computer science. So if you just work backwards from the cool thing that you want to build and figure out what that is, a lot of times computer programming is part of that, right? So you should learn the skills.
It's really exciting right now. The technology that we're developing right now is going to be used by your doctor in the next decade. When you come into the office and you're sick, and the doctor is going to be like, all right, spit in this cup. And I will put it into this magic machine, which is the sequencer. And in an hour, I can tell you what you have or what's wrong with you. So if we're looking for a new virus, for example, we'll download a database of all the viruses that are known. And we'll search for, our sequence of interest against a whole database of all viruses. So you still need somebody to analyze the data. The computer is not smart enough yet.
Our software helps people save energy and thereby reduce their carbon emissions. To date, we've saved over 8 terawatt hours, which is the equivalent of about 1.1 million cars on the road.
When you're forecasting the wind, there's so many different parameters that go into it. It would be impossible for a human to sit down and do all those calculations. We need a computer model in order to forecast it.
I write software which scans images, looking for bad images that we know are illegal. I work very closely with organizations like the National Center for Missing Children. I know that the work that we've done has impacted the life of people. And I feel very strongly about it because there's a lot of social problems right now that could really leverage the use of technology. It's a lot about empowering the people who are there helping the world by giving them the tools to be able to do better. That's something that we can do right now, and the tools available are huge.
The merging of art and technology is getting more and more significant now because computers and software are such an integral part of our lives day to day. People are realizing that it can be quite creative to take this medium of computers and create incredible works of art.
In Finding Nemo, when Crush and Squirt and all the friends are flying through the East Australian Current, you're seeing images of water flowing by, you're seeing the colors on the back of the turtle, you're seeing the sides of the fish. All of those things are generated through math and computer programs that we write that we then give to the artists, and they take that to create that final image and tweak it and make it look beautiful and look fun.
The crux of it is really about invention. It's about looking at the world and being dissatisfied with things and questioning everything.
I always felt like if I didn't learn how to program, it would be like not learning how it out there in the world and see people using it and having fun or having a better life because of something that wasn't there before that you put in the world.
Okay, I hope my connection was stable and most of you were able to sort of see through the video and hear it.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Olivia? An astronaut. I want to be a fashion designer.
Okay.
A basketball player.
I
want to
think
be
it just continued. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's come back. Now, what I just want to quickly do is, before I go there, let me just switch it off. And it's easier. So let's just take a pause. And I think in the next 1 or 2 minutes, I'd like to maybe see from the or hear from the audience if anyone wants to share was, any thought that you might that might occur to you till now by seeing this video. Did you capture any meaning or a different word for innovation? Did you get any insight, or what is it that you observed and that stuck with your mind? Anyone who wants to share, it will be great to hear from you. Anyone from the audience? It would be great. That's the first sign of an entrepreneur or anyone, an innovator, that you really participate in the whole learning process. I would love to hear from someone. I think there are some of the students that I really know. So my expectations will also be from them. But anyone from the faculty side, did that strike with you? Was there anything different? Any thoughts? I'd love to hear them. Give me an encouragement that this is not another boring online session or something. Okay, everyone is very, very quiet for an afternoon. Like you won't be judged. Okay. Anyways, I hope it was useful, and maybe I hope we can continue with the with our next piece here. Where did it go? All right. Okay. So we looked into this, we saw this, and I hope you noted down a few things. Now let's talk about how to think about innovation. So in the next 15 to 20 minutes, please try to pay attention. And I know there's a lot of information coming your way. What I want to share with you is, some of the methodology, framework, or a way how in the organizations like Apple, Microsoft, Google's, or or many social impact organizations, or even UN, how some of these thought processes are used to think about new ideas, how they are able to come up with ideas so that it can include most of the people's interest. It's not easy to do that. And so I'm just going to introduce you to some of the theory behind how to innovate, and a certain one of the frameworks which people in the which people really use to come up with ideas and solutions and all that. So let's just dive into it. So the main thing which I hope which sticks with you after this session is this keyword, which is called design thinking. It's precisely what the thing says, that you are putting some kind of a design in your thought process, putting a structure. And then when you're designing your thought process and when you're thinking like a designer, then you are trying to think more holistically. Okay. And this is a framework which is used by many organizations, many entrepreneurs, many startups, to think about and generate new ideas, or to ideate, or to even think about problems. So as I said, what is really design thinking? It's a kind of a framework which gives you certain standard operating procedures, or it gives you certain tools, it gives you certain way of looking at a problem and a solution. So it says that to identify the real problems and to solve them more systematically and effectively, it is necessary to approach them from different perspectives and angles. You cannot have just one perspective, right? So you have to have a 360-degree perspective. You have to even have a or out of the box perspective here. So therefore it makes sense to favor collaborative effort. So collaboration is the key. How do you bring structure to a collaborative thinking? Imagine there are 10 of you or 10 of the intellectuals sitting in a room. It's very difficult to come up with one idea or have a consensus. It's a collaborative thought process. Everyone is thinking from their own point of view, but you need a very good structure to come and solve a problem with so many people, with so many, and you need all of those 10 to be diverse, so that you are capturing all the perspectives. So imagine the problem. So you really need a structure to do that, right? So it's a collaborative effort by multidisciplinary teams, which affords a diverse array of viewpoints. So collaborative effort, multidisciplinary, diverse viewpoint, and which can also have a variety of interpretation on the same subject, so that you can actually yield very innovative solutions, so that you can take account all these intelligent thoughts and ideas which are coming. So nothing of rocket science, nothing very different, but just to put it in perspective. Now I'm just giving you a peek into what typically happens. That, let's say, you are in an organization which is trying to understand that how can we increase our customer base from 100,000 to 1 million customers, let's say. That's the problem. So now the way that you will start performing this research. So there are two kind of pillars. One is a design research and one is a market research. Market research is what we are generally aware of, right? So let's just look at this market research pillar and try to compare it with a design thinking research kind of a thing, as to just to give you a very high level idea about it. So let's say, what is market research? Market research, the main focus is on the people. Of course, there has to be, it's your end user, your end customer, or your internal user. Then what is the objective? The objective in market research is to seek to understand the behavior through what people do or say they do, so that you can predict how they will behave in a new situation. Okay. In terms of the design research, the subtle difference is that you are very particular about culture, the experiences, the emotion, the empathy, the behavior, so that you are creating an inspirational, point of view. So your entire way of looking at things, or the way you will prioritize things, are fundamentally, you're looking for different things in a design search and a market research. Market research is like very cutthroat, just in a one very focus, but design is trying to make it. Because why design research is trying to do this kind of objective? Because they want to be exploratory. They want to discover something which they do not understand. The limited people do not understand. Even if there are 8 experts that you have hired, there still are 8 experts with a limited thinking. But design research wants to expand and wants to discover new horizons. Their data collection primarily also have little subtle differences, that they can be semi-structured conversations, qualitative in its thing. So I'm not getting into a lot of detail on that, but I just wanted to tell you to appreciate the design research, that from a conventional market research to a design research in your thought process or in your problem solving framework, what are some of those subtle differences, fundamental differences that you're looking for. So it's very, it's very holistic, it's very exploratory, the whole design. And its sampling is also very different. Its sampling is not determined by the historical statistical understanding that you already have. So you are not looking at, okay, if 100 people are saying this, that means we should do this. versus a design research can come up and say, you know what, 100 people might say this, but there are 10 power users who are trying to say it in a different way, and those 10 power users are the ones who will actually buy our product, even more expensive. So then the whole thing shifts. Then it's not the statistical thing, there's a qualitative intelligence which is coming into the picture. Now, what's really, there are largely three things that you look at in any design thinking problem. That you have a certain, you have an immersion phase, then you have an ideation phase, and then you have a prototyping phase. And we'll try to look into all these three phases, as much as we can in this limited period of time, because honestly, it's almost like 2 days workshop that I'm trying to compress to you in 45 to 50 minutes here. So let me see if I can do some justice to the remaining, uh, I think, 23 minutes on this. So immersion, uh, there's an immersion phase, ideation and prototyping, as I said. And these are not like, one after the other. Sometimes when you're prototyping means what? Prototyping means that I'm creating a small, a tangible example of my idea. Let's say I
Sir,
want, yeah,
sir, can you please repeat the previous slide?
okay. You mean this one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, don't worry about this, Raki. It's more like, that just wanted to give you a glimpse of that there are two. Market research is a very, just to give you the main idea. The market research takes care in a more statistical way. It will say, for example, it will say my 100 users are wanting this kind of a feature. So we will do this feature because my 100 people said that. Design research might say that the 100 people want this feature, but there are 10 people who are like who are very rich or who are very established, and they want a different feature, but most of our revenue will come from those 10 people. So now I'm bringing in a qualitative. I'm not just only looking at the numbers. So this could be a difference between a design based research, because it's exploratory, lot more exploratory and lot more inclusive than a market research would be. Okay, make
Yes,
sense?
sir.
Okay, thank you. So as I said, three phases. I was saying prototyping, for example, is that I want, let's say I want a battery operated car. Okay, now in order for me to have a battery operated car, I might want to first do, some experimentation, and might want to just say, can I have a battery operated, let's say, rickshaw first, e-rickshaw. And then I just want to see what are the problems which are associated with my battery, what kind of other problems which occur. Can I get it recharged? Can I go this? So you're doing a little prototyping with a smaller different version of it, or a smaller version of features in it, and you are trying to get a product market fit. And then you are feeding that information back into these phases of design research, which comes from immersion, analysis, ideation, and then further prototyping, refining it. So it's a cycle. It can keep happening like that, but it is in three different phases. So let's understand the first phase of design thinking process, which is, which is immersion. So what is really immersion? Immersion means, its idea is, this phase idea is, we may not know, it's a very, I'm very new to the project, so I don't know what the problem is going. Let's say I want to say that uh, we want to introduce sustainable entrepreneurship as a degree in our college. Now, I may not have a good idea about that fully, about how Eternal University is running its degrees and all that. So, immersion phase for me will be to really understand the whole context, and there are two kind of things. So, I really want to understand why you want to do it, and what is the purpose, how will you deliver, who will be the thing, what will be the price, what will be the fees. So, you're just kind of, really trying to get closer to the context of the project. And this stage is mainly, there are two kind of sub stages. It is called a preliminary immersion, and then the second one is in-depth immersion. And we'll see a little bit more about this phase. But idea is that you're getting close to the context, or why this project is why this problem is there. Then the ideation phase. In this ideation phase, we, of course, as the name suggests, we want to generate innovative ideas. We want to come together. We will have so many different people coming together and trying to give their ideas. Then we will try to synthesize those ideas, because so many so many information is coming. We need to put a structure, because we can't take every idea and run with it. Nah, we can't take every point of view. So we'll have to have a framework which say, oh, this idea means this has a larger impact. Oh, this has a lower cost. Oh, so this means this to my stakeholder. This doesn't mean that I should not be worried about money, but the overall impact is high, so I have to go here. So you start synthesizing those ideas together. And then the prototyping, as I just mentioned, the feasibility of the idea. Is it really going to be physical? Do I have really the budget? Do I have the human resources to do it? So and then you start putting together a small plan to just pilot it and just see how to get this thing done. So we'll try to get little bit into it, and I will rush through a few of the information, but it's okay that you do not get 100% of it, because as I said, that it's very compressed information. It's almost like 2 days workshop where people actually come together and do some case studies to be able to do that. But I just wanted to give you a glimpse of this. So let's say immersion, first stage of our design thinking process. At this time, the project team is approaching the problem from the point of view not only of the company but also the end user. Again, design thinking. You can't just think about, okay, university wants to open a course, so we'll open a course. No. You have to think about who's going to take the course, why this course is important. Is it even important for, let's say, the values and ecosystem which the trust has, etc., etc. Now, just throwing at you this kind of a visual. So as I said, immersion has two kind of: preliminary immersion and the in-depth. So if you look at the first pyramid, it says about people, and at the surface level, when you ask somebody, okay, what do you think, and you're taking interviews, you're trying to know, would you join this course, would you take this course? So you're trying to get opinions. Then what, are people actually doing this? Are people actually taking these kind of courses? Then you're trying to go to this next part of the pyramid. Then you're going in depth, know, feel, dream. So now you're saying what people are really dreaming for, what they really feel, what they really know. So that's your in-depth exploration. So your preliminary exploration is just on the surface: say, think, do, use. And then you're going deeper, you're trying to ask those questions, and you're trying to do more research on that at the depth. So that is how you see this pyramid, right, at the top. And then there is something called techniques. So at the surface, you first do interviews. That's how you will come to know about what people are saying, thinking. Then you're observing, and then you're having generative sessions. Then you're having more close contact, more detailed interviews, or you are trying to go and have workshops, and you're trying to understand the needs of farmers, or needs of students, or needs of teachers. You're really asking them for detailing, right? Then the third is knowledge. So if you look at the surface, whatever is the knowledge available in the internet or in the market, it's an explicit one. It's already available to everybody and you can actually consume it. But you want to go beyond it in the design research. You want to have more research in what are the observable, how, because if you keenly observe, you will find different patterns. Then there is a tacit knowledge, which is not that available. It is an implied knowledge. So you try to get into the latent. Latent means which is hidden. Okay. So that's how the in-depth research of an immersion phase would really, where you really want to know inside out about all the people involved, about all the intricacies, So that's the very simple framework. And if you look at this, so I think we've already seen this. Now let's talk about this preliminary immersion. When a design thinking project begins, usually the team is not familiar with the project. That's what I was telling you, right? So it's taken as a way of approaching the problem often before the project kickoff. And this has take just 2 to 3 keywords, 2 to 3 key ideas. What is my key idea of immersion? Preliminary immersion. I want to reframe my problem. If I go to somebody and ask any client or any businesses, as a consultant, and I ask them what is the biggest problem that you have, they will define it in a different way. If I ask somebody else, they will define it in a different words. So now I'm reframing the problem. It is very important that a problem is reframed, repurposed, so that everyone has a single understanding and it includes everybody's point of view. So you're reframing the problem. Then you are doing exploratory survey. So that's what is preliminary immersion is. So as I mentioned, in the immersion process, when you're reframing, so what is the use of this reframing process? So it provides an easygoing environment where the client is invited to relax and rethink his work. Because what happens if you're asking your people to come and define the problem when they are not in the heat of, if I have to take 10 lectures, or if I have to attend 10 lectures, and somebody is asking me, please define your biggest problems, I don't have time. I'm doing the firefighting. So I just need a relaxed time to really think. So innovation requires you to slow down, to be distraction free, and then think. So this is, one of the things that you have to ideas to do that. Then you hold provocative and emotional discussions full of examples. And because you want to be probing, somebody said, okay, this is the problem. Well, doesn't mean this is the only problem. Now dig deeper. So this is one of the things. And then of course, these are called generative sessions. You're generating the idea, you're probing, you're asking them all kinds of difficult questions, and then you're of course selecting a facilitator. Otherwise this will go very unstructured. So now let's talk about exploratory research. As I mentioned, I think the main takeaway from this is that this is where you will start putting together as to really familiarize with the context and the product. This is also where you start including uh, more people in it, because this is exploratory in nature. So we'll take this as an example that let's say exploratory research could be this, that you really want to understand you really want to understand that my I have an airline, and in my airline I have all kind of customers, but I really want to explore that how can I what are the some kind of customers, special customers, or a special need customer. Let's say there is a special abled people, and I really want to understand that. I want to make sure their experiences are also at par with the other people, because now you're getting into an exploratory mode. So then there's a desk research. Again, there is a method to it. So let's not get overwhelmed with the kind of information which is out there. It's simply trying to define a structure. You have an exploratory research, you have a desk research. So desk research also has two kind of parts, where you're collecting data from different you're interviewing, you are creating Excel sheets, you're creating different databases, and you're directly interviewing. And secondary research is when you are there are many other public publications available or internet which is available, and then you are trying to use that. Now this is an important phase which is and the heart of every design research, or even your thought process, of course, the analysis and synthesis. So we'll look a very sort of a, real example. I want to show you that. I actually want to quickly jump to that rather than going through this theory. But I just want you to know that there is a heart of it which is called analysis and synthesis, which means that during your meetings, a lot of information is coming your way, very unstructured thoughts. So how do you create, there are some kind of affinity diagrams that you can create. There are kind of conceptual maps that you can create. And you will see some examples of that, which will try to structure every idea into meaningful, so that you can understand, so that you can You can brainstorm on that. Okay, that's the idea of this kind of a phase. As I mentioned, very important tool. Try to see if you can even use in your day-to-day decisioning, in a certain way of it. So what is a conceptual map? I want this to be registered in your mind. Okay, what is a conceptual map? So the conceptual map is a graphic visualization which is built to simplify and organize complex field data, at very varying levels of depth and abstraction. Essentially, what it means is that, as I said, that we'll see an example. I think it's much better clear. Look at this, so this is a conceptual map. So imagine you are an organization or you are a team who wants or who wanted to design a much better experience of using ATMs. Let's say you're a new bank, you're a new foreign bank who want to come into India, and you want to make sure that you have a good, the customers have good experience. So let's try to, this is a visual tool. So if I show you a lot of documents, 100 page document, and everyone is writing in a verbose way, that's not how you see the whole information coming together. This is distilled information. So let's try to read this. It says, that the bank account holder will be using the ATM to obtain, consult, and provide money. In the top of this line, this is how you read it. So this is your persona. Persona is a term which is used in design thinking and all the brainstorming. So bank account holder uses ATM, your service and a product, to do these kind of things: obtain, consult, provide money. Now let's say you're obtaining a person using ATM to obtaining the using this obtain. What are you trying to get? How to get? So ATM functionalities, you can obtain withdrawal, credit, check, loan. This, what is obtained? What is the hard item which is being obtained? Cash, card, check, services. Okay. And similarly, consult. So how do consult? There will be consultation deposit slips. But what is really obtained? Physical, digital account statements. You know, Now let's come to ATM. Now, ATM, what is it? What is really ATM? Define ATM, right? Because there are people who are, and you want to make sure that you define very clearly. You say drive through bank, connection between account holder and account through human contact. What it is made of? It is made of a digital interface, and it is made of an object interface. There is going to be a machine, and then there is going to be a software. Okay, in the software, what is satisfying? What is unsatisfying? So now you've done an immersive, exploratory, preliminary researches. You've taken interviews from people, what they want and what their experiences should be. Now you're trying to say, okay, what is satisfying? What does the client like about the ATM digital interface? What does the client consider unsatisfying? Okay, from this whole, what does the client like about the ATM, you're giving some insight. These are called insight cards. So there many things may be not liked by the customer. So what is your insight? Oh, the customer doesn't like that they have to always, or they don't have a choice of a language, they only are presented with English. So that could be an insight. Then the observation. So you're defining this raw note, you are collating, and then you are putting it in two different categories: insights and observations. So imagine you are now the CEO, or you are the product, you're creating the product, or you are developers and other teams and all that. This information is so valuable to you if you put it in this way, rather than those big documents. That's how people brainstorm. That's how they will give, executives will give ideas on this. So if you take this to your vice chancellor, sir, rather than you take the major documents only, this might give him a better idea. Okay, this is what I like, this is, I please go ahead, please go ahead. So they can take decisions, right? So just to give you an appreciation of that, I know we have a lot to cover. There's another thing, very important keyword. Please remember this. Try to search on this. It is used in today's software designs or systems design or any of the things that you see in the world, even the agriculture products. It's called empathy map. Empathy is a very unique word. It's a combination of, emotion, and it's a combination of sympathy. Okay, so it's not pitiful. You're not being pity to anyone, but you're very, very sensitive. Like this: what is the client seeing? What is the client hearing? What is the client actually thinking and feeling? What is the client saying and doing? What difficulty is the client facing? What are the client's achievements? So you are become extremely sensitive, to the behaviors and some of the underlying pieces to it. Okay, this is another keyword: user's journey. So you're always looking at things like this. Okay, like we saw, this was a user journey, right? uh, a person walks to an ATM and does a card withdrawal. So that becomes a user journey. The person walks to the ATM and tries to get the mini statement. That's another user journey. So these are the user journey because you're trying to go through a different paths to get there. A user is going to the ATM and trying to change the pin of the card. Okay, what kind of actions they have to take, how will they get a slip, will they get this deliverable, and things like that. So that's user journey. Now I just want to quickly show you something like this. Okay, probably in the interest of time, I think it's better to just give you things. So let's try to put everything together in an example. Then things will become clearer so far whatever we have seen. So now I just want to bring about the importance of analysis and synthesis phase for you. So let's say you are a part of a project and you're witnessing this project. It is saying that I want to innovate the experience of my passengers, my airplane. Let's say Tatas have recently taken over Air India. Now their executive, rather Ratan Tata, is saying that I am tasking my team to make sure that you are innovating, you're thinking, and trying to create an experience for the people, which is not just, don't think about just the aircraft. Okay, think beyond it, because there are many touch points: how you book your tickets, what kind of technology awareness you have, what kind of economic background you have. So all of this will start coming into the picture, various touch points and various journeys. So what do we want to do? Over the course of immersion phase, we assume we have collected a lot of data, information was analyzed, collaborative meetings happen, and a lot of synthesis and everything was happened. As a result, we arrived at few personas and a traveler's itinerary, later used in the ideation phase. Okay, so now what is the persona? As I mentioned to you, that they're different. If I am an airline consumer and you are an airline consumer, we can be totally different consumer. I'm coming from city, you are coming from, let's say, United States, and you are a 20-year-old, I'm a 40-year-old. So our preferences are different, so personas have to be thought about. So they're thinking about the personas, and this is part of an exploratory field research. This is not a direct market research. This is exploratory field research. So you want to, so there are three personas out of all the entire population. Let's say we have identified four or different kind of, okay, this is the category in which people fall. So let's say there is a 62-year-old, and there's just an example where they're trying to, after an exploratory research, they're trying to create these personas. Because what is an experience? Experience is only based on a certain personality or a certain inclination, certain attributes. So my experience will be different from a 20-year-old because I'm looking at different things. Okay, so let's say we have a 60, there's a persona that they have, sample persona they have created. He's a doorman in an apartment building for the past 30 years. He likes to travel by bus because he finds it a pleasant trip. And there's a lot of background information. Recently, when his mother died, Zhao had to get to Manhao in a hurry. So he set aside his fear of flying and accepted help from building manager to buy a plane ticket over the internet. So what is this persona? This persona means that there can be many people traveling in your airplane who are in a certain emergency, who hate flying, but they have to go into the airplane. So they are first time airplane traveler. So how can you make sure that you're thinking from their point of view, getting into their shoes, and then defining the whole user journey? Okay, so this is what persona is. That is why this background information and this exploratory research. So they say anxiety. So less anxious because you are a 62-year-old, conservative or innovative, short distance, long distance, has time, no time, travels alone, with family, has internet access, has no internet access. So it this person doesn't have internet access. Normally, travels alone, generally has no time. Timing means that he's not a guy who will relax in a lounge, and likes to travel long distance, is more conservative, and is more anxious. Okay, this is the persona that you are modeling. Now you make sure that your entire experience of airline meets the expectation of such people. Then there is another persona, Monica, 35-year-old, married, secretary, lives in this, right? Long distance. So, what she likes, uh, substantial saving for traveling, always present, don't pay the fare, which is a great economy. So, again, defining certain attributes for Monica, who's a 35-year-old female, a 20-year-old single computer technician, like this. So now you have modeled these 4 or 5 such people, and now you are trying to think about, now you are in this phase, you are trying to define in a visually. You all came together and you have drawn this kind of a diagram, this kind of a thing which you says, here is my planning. So I have to first buy a plane ticket, then a luggage, I'm preparing my document like my Aadhaar card, everything, then I go to airport. Where is the location? you know uh, Check in, because why this is important, going to airport and location. Maybe I have a preferred Uber cab rides which are economy rides, and I have taken a impact, I've taken a I've made an arrangement with them that they can offer 20% discount to all Air India passenger folks. So I'm making it easy for my people. They will prefer Air India than anything else, like that. So plane ticket, location, check-in, waiting, boarding the plane. Then you are in the flight. You're finally sitting. Then you're deplaning, taking the luggage from the belt. Then a ground transportation. So imagine all these things are your touch points. So many places you are touching the customer. So then you are asking these questions. How to answer first time flyer question? How can this be done remotely? How can travelers find out ticket prices without using the internet? Can you send an SMS? How to arrange? Because these are the pain, these are the problem areas. This is what the people need from their interviewing and exploratory research. How to arrange transporting of big families. So I'm not going to read all of it, but I just want you to look at it, read for yourself, appreciate the visual, appreciate the whole process of putting things together in one frame, in one page. This is how you think about complicated problems. This is how you collaborate. This is how you use these kind of tools and ask the right kind of questions and think end to end. This is end to end, right from planning and right from the deboarding. You're not only thinking about their in-flight experiences, because experience starts from here, even for buying. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm 5 minutes over the time, but I would like to go for another 5 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes, Kishore sir and Sunil sir. I just need to wrap up this one.
Yes, sir. Please, sir, continue.
Okay, so we just went through this in detail. I'm just going to kind of put the other 2 phases. Remember, there was immersive ideation, and the third phase was uh, what was the third phase? And
Prototyping.
prototyping. Absolutely right. See, you guys are paying attention. I'm happy. Okay, so just one check before I move further. Do we have Partha on the call?
Good evening. Yes,
Hey
Ravindra.
Partha, so I just wanted to make sure you are here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm going
Please
to
go
eat
ahead.
into some of your time and then
No,
we'll
that's
have a
okay. Please go
formal
ahead.
introduction. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to hurry up on this because Partha also has a lot of interesting things for you in store. So ideation, this was the second phase, and where the main ask is about, how you are, largely ideation means you're brainstorming, right? You are putting your brain to work. You are trying to, if I ask somebody, hey, can you just go and think of a great idea? No, you can't just sit there and think of a great idea, right? So you need simulations, you need triggers, you need the right environment. So what you need to do is create the right setup, create a right framework, so that you ask, okay, let's come together in a room, in a conference room where there will be coffee and all that. And now let's start with each one of, and there is, I don't know if you have heard of, but there's a very famous person, which is used in corporates a lot, and Partha might be aware of this. This is called six thinking hats. So six thinking hats by Edward de Bono is a brainstorming technique. So what they do is they will bring everybody in the room and they will say that there are six different kind of colored hats. And I don't remember exactly what hat what, but let's say red. Red means that it's your intuition, whatever comes to you, and blue means, green means facts, that these are the facts. So they will say, the moderator will say, who will have the blue hat, he will say, look, I am your moderator and a leader, and I want each one of you, hypothetically, you know, to just put your red hat. And now let's only have our brain to dump ideas which are only intuitive ideas, which have nothing to do with facts. Just keep running your dreams, whims, and fancies, and just downpour your ideas one by one. So now everyone is one as one single frame, and they start jotting their ideas in intuition. Then they say, okay, now you put your fact based green hat, and now you start only talking about facts. So everyone starts writing and start giving their facts, and then you start putting everything together, and then you get the idea. So I'm just telling you that even the brainstorming, it has to be very structured, and that's how the ideation comes. And then you generate the menu of ideas, a catalog. Oh, here are so many ideas, and then you try to prioritize those ideas, and then the ideas have come. Now how do you make sure that this is a good idea, this is a bad idea? How do you take the decision? you know so couple of another things that I'm throwing at you, and there are many many such tools, but I'm just throwing at you some of them. Something which is called decision matrix. So now what you say is that I have 8 criteria I have listed down in my one, on the vertical axis. And I say these are my guidance criteria, which meaning that criteria one could be cost, criteria two could be user experience, criteria three could be revenue. I don't know, I'm just making up. So there can be 7 to 8, as many criteria as you want, because this is important things for you. This is the basis in which you will identify a good or a bad idea, and then you will list your idea 1, idea 2, idea 6, and then you will give marks to those ideas. You will say this criteria one is of 25% weightage, this is 30%, this is 50%. So you keep on saying, does this idea meet all this criteria? Oh yes, great, this idea 4 is a winner, and these are the two people who came up with the idea. So you're now taking a data based decisions. Then it's an innovative return matrix. You might have a great idea, but boss, what is the return? I'm thinking out of the box, but my return is just one. I might want to come up with a with a rocket launching satellite, but I don't know if I can get the return because there are hardly anyone launching satellites. Okay, so this idea 17 is desirable, not really out of the box, but return levels, money levels are good. So that's how you take. But innovation has to have a purpose, has to have a certain outcome, right? That's how you tie it up. Now remember the previous diagram in which we did the, just want to quickly show this, where the whole touch points, customer touch points, and their journey was captured here. We asked the right questions based on interview. So this was outcome of immersion. Now the outcome of ideation is this. So the outcome of ideation is when I was ideating, I was having access to that previous visual, those inside cards. Then I took this, okay, plane ticket, passenger helpline, a direct phone line with no red tape, meaning fast. SMS guide to the airport, first trip kit. So you're now giving a solution to some of those questions which were being asked, that how will you tackle the experience of each and every obstacle which is going to come in the user journey, like waiting, there's a farewell launch, in flight experience, even ground put door to door, so that's how you are. Now you see all things fall in place. Of course, reality can be a little tougher than what I'm showing you, but this is how you actually structure your ideation and your brainstorming and everything. Now it's a prototyping, the last phase. The function of prototyping is to aid the it's validating the idea. It's really your last, it says last phase, but it can occur, as I said, it can occur again and again, again and again. Remember the example of a EV vehicle, then e-rickshaw, and then you keep coming back at it again and again. Now let me show you after a prototype, rather, because there are different kind of prototyping: volumetric prototyping, paper prototyping, actual product prototyping, minimum viable product. You will keep hearing these terms, which are there in the entrepreneurship world. But now I'm just going to show you, ultimately, this is a paper prototype. So now you are visualizing everything, the entire thing, in an actual user journey. You're saying like this: an airline employee hands out the brochure. So this is the first contact point. Press on the back of the card, there is a step-by-step explanation. Second, within moments, the customer gets the message. Third, with the lowest fare. Okay. Third, then you're defining some interaction with the customer service representative. Then during the call, you're defining. So you are visualizing the actual real process with the real actors, with the actual script and the actual scenario. So you understand how powerful this can be when you're presenting this whole thing it in this manner, that when a customer chooses door to door, will pick them up. Later, when the plane lands, another car will be waiting. Passengers who have opted to visit. So there are features in this. This is a gold mine for a product manager or for a CEO or for somebody to be under looking at, this kind of things. And then look at it's so end to end. This is why it is design thinking now. It's not just take this software, hire these four people, and voila, you have an airline. No, that's not it. It's happening. The entire experiential journey, even when you are gotten off, how you are tweeting or how you are Instagramming or Facebooking your experience, that also has to be captured and analyzed, so that you really know if people are really how people are talking about your airline experience. You have to measure it. So you need to have those kind of things. Okay, I think we are done. This is the summary. I'm really sorry to take all the time, and I hurried a little bit, but I just wanted to show you the kind of this process. So in the end, we have barely scratched the surface of design thinking, and various actors, how they come together.
ਹੁਣ ਇਹ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਗਲਤੀ ਹੈ ਬੋਲੋ ਹੁਣ ਇਹ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਗਲਤੀ ਚਲਦਾ ਚਲਦਾ ਲੈਪਟਾਪ ਹੈਂਗ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ था तो ਇਹ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਗਲਤੀ
I think somebody unmuted.
हाँ
Okay, so the summary is, can we unmute please? I cannot summarize it properly. Okay, yeah, so in this summary, this is all about coming together collaboratively in a structured manner, so that you can have a 360-degree view, and you're exploratory. In this whole thing, you might discover altogether a different way of solving a problem, or altogether a different market segment, altogether a different way of how you started off versus how you end up in this whole process. So it's kind of structuring your brain dump of ideas, bringing everyone together, and make sure there is a meaningful impact which is created of so much information which is out there. Okay, so I think that's about it. I again apologize to take more time of it. So Partha, you might have to squeeze some of your information till 5, but But thank you, and I hope there were some takeaways, some new terminologies, and some learnings from this. And I will be happy to connect with any follow-up questions or even thinking of a one-day actual design thinking workshop with all of you. Thank you.
Raki Compose is having some questions. So Raki, please you can ask if you have any question. Raki, you have raised hand, so you have any question you may ask, please.
Yeah, that might be in a. That's okay. I think she's still on mute, so we can proceed. I've already taken a lot of time. Thank you. They can send me the question on the email, or I am here only in the campus. They can send me in the email, or they can, I'm happy to answer and follow up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing this valuable information with such illustrative examples and case studies. We had limitation of time, but I'm sure the way you have summarized this plethora of information, this will definitely aid the budding entrepreneurs. Thank you once again. Before moving towards our next speaker, you all are requested to please fill the attendance sheet that is shared in the chat box. Thank you. Our second speaker, Mr. Partha Day, he is the Vice President Portfolio Risk at Citibank, New York, US. He is a seasoned professional in the financial service industry with exposure to risk, product, credit, market risk, and business model transformation. He has been involved in some of the key business process transformation projects in collaboration with leading consulting firms and has also dealt with strategic issues. He has also freelanced with New York-based technology accelerator firm specializing in blockchain, ICO, venture capital, and crowdfunding as the head of research. So it is our honor to have you here among us. Sir will be delivering his lecture on the topic Present Business Case Studies on some leading organizations, how they became the world leading organization, and what problem they chose to solve. Sir, I warmly welcome you once again for this webinar. Please, you may start your lecture.
Thank you, Sabranjit. That was an eloquent introduction. Thank you so much for that. And good evening, everyone. Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you. Before the session, Ravinda gave a very, very impressive presentation. My presentation might not be even close to that. So please bear with me for some time. And feel free to stop me if you have any questions, or I can take the questions at the end of the session. So Ravinda, do you have the presentation? Can you share the presentation? Is that possible, or?
Uh, Let me just click that. If you have it, I think you could also
Okay.
project it, Partha.
Yeah.
You have it, you can project it. It'll be better. I can also bring up if you want.
Yeah, actually, my screen is
I'll
actually.
bring up. Let me bring
Yeah.
it up. Okay.
Well, sorry for the technical glitch.
No, it's. I think you already gave it to me. Just let me just bring it up. Should I open with Google Slides or the PPT?
Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, the presentation is not very fancy, so and I actually wanted to talk instead of sharing the PPT, so I'll talk more. So if you can just bring it up, that would be helpful.
Just bringing it. Just give me a moment. Got it.
So while Ravindra is pulling up the presentation, I just wanted to say that, like, when Ravindra was presenting, he did use a word, and very, very emphatically, and that was experience. So the topic I have chosen for this session today is also about the very much about the experience. And while I talk through the presentation, I'll talk in detail. But this word experience has a humongous amount of value, and particularly on the entrepreneurship world, when you venture into that, you will see that this experience matters a lot in terms of how you are serving to your customers. So the whole presentation, the theme of this presentation is basically the people experience.
Are you able to see?
No. Anyone?
Oh, okay. Let me just share. Okay.
Yeah, now it's coming up, I guess. Yeah, you can stay here. So I picked up this case for Starbucks. One, I'm a coffee lover, and second, I think this company has been very very close to my heart. I'm sure some of you definitely know about Starbucks. It's a coffee chain. Given it's US, it's the largest coffee chain, and also worldwide, this is kind of the largest coffee chain houses that you have. So I use the word coffee house, and I want to talk about more about this story in terms of why not a coffee shop and why a coffee house. So Starbucks kind of has been into existence for many years now. Ravinder, if you can go to the next slide. Uh, so it started way back in 1971 by three very very forward-thinking gentlemen known as Gerard Baldwin, Gordon Bokel, and Zeev Siegel. So there's a place called Seattle in Washington. It's a cobblestone, the typical old field kind of a town where you have a cobblestone streets, and there is a very historic Pike Place market. So they opened the store there, and they started serving fresh roasted coffee beans, teas, and different kind of spices in their store. And the name was inspired by a very classic tale. If you have followed Disney, if I still follow, I'm sure some of you do follow. So it's based on the Moby Dick, evoking the seafaring tradition of the earlier coffee traders. So the name has been borrowed from them. Some of the information out here is specific to US and some bit of older information. So I'll be talking more through the latest part of the company as in terms of the transformation. So there is a very legendary CEO for Starbucks who joined. His name was known as Howard Schultz, and he joined as part of their marketing team in 1982. And he has been the one of the most charismatic CEOs the corporate world has ever seen, especially in America. He's a very household name, and he has kind of transformed this whole experience of coffee shop to coffee house. So I kind of have been emphasizing on this thing. So why exactly from a coffee shop to a coffee house, what exactly that means? So Howard Schultz was a smart New York guy. When he joined the organization, it's 23, and after joining the organization he traveled to Milan on a trip, and there he realized that coffee is part of a culture. Coffee is not like just, it's not that you make the coffee and you drink it and you go. Coffee is part of their life. Coffee is part of their experience. Coffee is all about bringing your experience into that store and living it there. So the whole theory is like it's built, and kind of the premise of this entire coffee house is based on the warmth and the artistry of the coffee culture. So that's what Howard Schultz learned in Milan and brought it back to Starbucks in US and started expanding. So eventually he ended up buying the firm from these three gentlemen, and kind of he started opening new stores. Currently, by the by end of 2019, I think worldwide Starbucks had about 30,000 odd stores across the world, and a large portion of their revenue these days come from the international market as well. And Skulls have been a very very inspiring CEO who has kind of transformed this entire concept of coffee and kind of has taken it to the next level. So if you can go to the next slide, Ravinder. So primarily, what exactly is the coffee house? What is the vision and mission of this firm? So when Howard Schultz took over the firm, he wanted to create this as an experience for the customer, and he typically used a concept called third place environment. So what is this third place environment? Now, if you think about it, what does a third place means? I mean, we live in our, we go to work, we live in our house. What exactly is a third place? So he thought of it as like, there is a place between your house and work, and that is the third place which he wanted Starbucks to be. So he identified this concept of call, which he called that create a third place environment. So he wanted to have people to have the similar kind of experience that they will have in their, coziness of their house, or in an excellent workplace that they go every day and spend some time. In between of that, if they want to kind of get a break from both these places, there is a third place created for them, and that's Starbucks. So in terms of the branding and bringing that experience, he identified three core components of his entire entrepreneurial journey, and he has been consistently following it since the time he has, taken over this organization and has led it to a level where, it has got all the international acclaim possible. So first part of the entire branding strategy or the entrepreneurial goal was the coffee itself. How exactly they would like to serve the coffee, what kind of beans they would like to serve. So that was the first part of the journey. Second was the service, how they want to serve their customer and how they can bring the personal touch into their service, like, what exactly they should be doing. And third, the atmosphere. So these are the three key components. And when we all talk about entrepreneurial goals, entrepreneurial venture journey, many a times people tend to forget that what we are bringing to the customer is that delighting them. And this is the, because serving coffee and selling coffee, you are technically not solving a problem. Like, we always talk about in the entrepreneurship that, solve a problem, find the problem, what is the pain. So coffee is not a pain for people, right? If you have to understand, you get coffee in Dunkin' Donuts, you get coffee in Pete's, you get coffee in Barista, you can go to get coffee anywhere else. So what you are selling is basically this experience. And this experience comes, you have to package this experience and sell it to people that they get delighted. And this word, delighted, is the key theme of entire chain of the, Starbucks across the world. So there are some very, very unique feature that Starbucks has. And, it's that involves different kind of strategies, or I would say the leadership mantra that they have picked up to strengthen this organization. The next slide, if you go, Ravinder, that's primarily, some of the stats and figures. So I can talk about some of the latest ones. So currently, uh, like the Q2 results for Starbucks was like, the revenues were like, this is a recessionary environment, right? Sorry, but Ravinder gave my Ravinder, while Simranjit was talking about my introduction. Ravinder, you can move on to the next page. So when Simranjit was talking about my experience, so I basically I'm a banker. I develop risk models, risk financial models. So technically I am a numbers guy. I spend most of my time throughout the day on the numbers, etc. Uh, and I end up looking at numbers for almost all the firms. So I just share some of the quick latest results for Starbucks. In the Q2 results of Starbucks, the revenues were up by about 15%, and it recorded a profit of around $7.6 billion. And globally, the sales were up by, 7%, which is like a huge margin, keeping in mind that, Starbucks operates like in many countries outside US, and 7% jump in this environment is a very, very big achievement. And that's because of the experience that they are selling. They are not selling coffee. And please mind it when I'm saying this thing, this actually, so whenever you go to a Starbucks, do notice in terms of their entire kind of construct of the place that they have. Look at the location they have picked. You will always see there is something different about this store, and that's what the experience is that I was talking about. On a whole, like, in spite of all the inflationary headwinds and lockdowns in China, Starbucks kind of put up a very, very excellent result. They were able to beat the estimates again. And as a result of their numbers, I know you can say that, there is overall 3% increase in their transaction, and overall, sales across the stores have grown by about 7% or something. Um, so other than this thing, I would say that, some of the, although I've spoken about the numbers here, but I would just like to pick my last point here. That's about the partnership. So when, obviously you are doing a business, you are selling an experience, but at the same time you are an entrepreneur, you are looking at the growth strategy of your firm. So when you are looking at the growth strategy of the firm, Howard Skull's strategy in terms of expansion has been extremely unique. this concept of coffee house, wherein he changed the concept of this coffee store wherein you go and get a coffee and come back. He changed this concept of from there to a coffee house wherein you can go pick a book, sit there for the entire day, sip your cup of coffee, enjoy it. You can invite your friends there, families there. So this concept of coffee house, he transformed even further. So what he did, he started building partnerships, and some of the names that I have mentioned here are corporate partnerships. However, he took a step ahead, like in 2008, when social media was still, I would say, relatively new. Howard Schultz imagined that the next stage of our life is going to be on social media. So even before any coffee house thought of it, he kind of thought ahead of the time and started having a presence of Starbucks into through the social media. So these partnerships he started developing with Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. He started creating that digital atmosphere for Starbucks as a whole. He started in 2011. He started offering, when even these days, for many a places, like I can talk about a place like Germany, where the apps, mobile apps are still new, even for the banks. So you can think of it, if I'm saying that in 2011 Starbucks started offering apps to their customers so that they can start offering start ordering coffee through their apps. think about the think about the goal this person has in his mind and the vision that person brings into the business. So that's what the entrepreneurial side of the entire coffee house venture of Howard Skulls has been. If you can move on to the next one, Ravinder. So he wanted, so basically coffee on a whole for Howard Schultz was all about the craft, the artisan, the experience of selling coffee and the making coffee. So they always say, like it's a typical business case. Every B school, wherever you will read a case study on Starbucks, you will see that it will talk about that in Starbucks it takes many hands to craft a perfect cup of coffee. And they will be talking about the experience not only in the coffee store. They'll be starting from the farmer who will be kind of who will actually grow these beans for them. They will talk about how the roasters have used these beans, how they serve it with care, how much they are committed in terms of standards of their quality and services, embracing the entire culture and heritage of the place that the beans are coming from. And it's kind of innovating the entire new experience to savor. This is what they are selling. And the best part about that, they will always use this thing that they are not in the business of selling coffee. This is a very unique thing they claim. They will always say that we are not in the business of coffee selling. We are in the business of serving. We are in the business of we are in a people business serving coffee. And their employees, they don't call their employees the employees, they call them partners. Why? They want to bring that experience and kind of personal touch into everything that they do. That's the whole beauty about the concept of Starbucks and the how they are ahead of the game. If you look at the difference today, another leading chain in US is Dunkin Donuts. But still, in terms of the number of coffees sold on a day, they are at least 30 30 percentage points lower than Starbucks. And it will take huge amount of time for them or any other coffee shop to do a catch up with Starbucks at this point of time. Why? Because they have created that experience. Although COVID has changed a lot of these things that I'm talking about, many of the stores had to kind of cut down in terms of the space, etc. But the whole concept of coffee house that was created by Howard Salt and then taken later on taken over by the other guys who manage the store. But this whole concept has kind of brought in a new thought into the art of selling coffee. So in terms of the strength, and that I typically call the market mantra, it's the leadership mantra that I typically associate with. What they did was they focused on a very very well defined and established brand strategy of live coffee. When you go to their store, nothing there is kind of there are some of the packaged foods and packaged stuff, some in terms of the product differentiation that they have done, there is some ready-made product. But the essence of that, when you go to their store, the coffee making, they have made it an art. And this art of selling the live coffee is what captivating people. I know I live in New York. So New York, obviously, the very famous place is, the Times Square, right? And Times Square, you have, coffee houses there, Starbucks, I meant. And you will see that, there are a lot of international tourists who will come, and they will deliberately kind of line up outside of the Times Square coffee house just to see that experience, just to get that experience. That what is that experience, that people will line up in a queue. There are different counters. It's like similar to your banks, like that you have different counter. If you go and want to deposit a check, you have to go through, you have to fill up the form, then you go to the next counter, then the second, and so on and so forth. So they have also made it like that you have to place the order in the counter, and then it goes on in terms of like what exactly you want to have, the amount of customization that offers. So this whole experience that they have developed is very very unique. And this live coffee, that whether you want milk, what kind of milk do you want? Do you want a whole milk, skim milk, almond milk? What kind of milk do you want? Because usually many a place you will go ask for a coffee, you will get a coffee. They will not do the customization for you. But here in Starbucks, that's their whole strength. And so in terms of their strength, like I was talking about, so here you see that location, product mix, partners, customization of their drink. So I'll pick on one key thing here, that's location. So why do you think for a coffee shop, location, why it is important? I mean, you can open a coffee shop anywhere in New York and that should be running. But they are not, like I mentioned just a while back, they are not in the business of selling coffee. And that's what makes them different, because they are not in the coffee business serving people, but they are in the people business serving coffee. And that's why that location is very important. And like I mentioned, the third place concept, so they very carefully choose their location. They choose a location wherein they will have always, most of the time, 99% of the time, you will see that Starbucks has a store at the corner of a building, always. I mean, in US, I would say 100%. Outside US, wherever I've seen, they will definitely have a very very strategic location, and 99% of the time, again, a corner of a building. So why corner of a building? Because the corner of a building gives you a kind of the maximum amount of space that you want to have, and they will always have certain amount of chairs and tables outside of their store. Because the idea of their selling, although they sell that, do not sell coffee, but we have to understand it's a business at the end of the day. And they are indeed selling coffee, however they claim they are selling that experience. And in order to sell that experience, what they do, they want to invite you. It's like they want you to be a place, like they said, the third place. They want you to invite your friends, colleagues, anyone, boyfriend, girlfriend, have a discussion there, chit chat there, pick a book, go and sit there, read your book, sip a coffee. You may not even drink coffee, and they will never come and object you. That's the beauty of this place. And amount of in terms of other strengths, like the product mix that I've said, they diversified coffee into all sort of things. Now they have food items, they have ready-made coffees, they have different kind of flavors that they have developed over the period of time, which is kind of unmatched by any other coffee house. I have kind of I would say that I have had the opportunity to drink coffee from many other leading places like Pete's. Can talk about in India, you have Costa, Barista, all those. I think Costa and Barista is now one. But there are some of the other leading chains across the world. Sorry, was there a question? Okay, I'll go on. So what they have done is they have developed this unique product mix and the fan following, both through their social media or the other partners that they have developed, like I was mentioning, through their apps. And they have just made it easy for people to kind of get this habit of getting a coffee from Starbucks only. Like, I am, if you ask me particularly, I have at least, where I live, I have at least five coffee shops right within the 5 minutes distance of where I live. But I end up going to the coffee shop of, the coffee house, I would say, Starbucks. That's because the experience that they have sold, the nature, the way they sell the coffee. So every time you go to the store, the person who will be serving your coffee, when you, particularly when you order through the apps these days, they pick your name. They have all the histories and stats around it. When you, Ravinder sir was talking about all these, I think data science concept. At the today, Starbucks is using data science to the utmost level you can think of. They have all the histories related with you. They have your birthdays. They have the, all the information related, what kind of coffee you have taken, what is your favorite coffee. Those are again part of their, entire data collection that they do, and the immense amount of research they put into their, bringing this coffee to the world. And so, they will be like doing things like, on your birthdays, you may get a call from Starbucks, and they will be offering you free coffee on that day. And you'll be surprised that, okay, fine. At times they do send gift cards, and you'll be surprised to know today their gift card sale is kind of the highest in any big box stores in US. When we say big box stores in US, that means all these big stores, like, there are most of these, I guess, in this university, I have heard most of you have kind of, young girls. So you would know Macy's, right? Macy's is a very famous store for the girls. I mean, there are men's stuff as well, but Macy's is all about women's stuff. So if you have like, seven floors of Macy, six and a half of it would be belonging to the women, and probably just half of it would be for the men stuff, which nobody buys, I guess. But yeah, it's like, they also sell their gift cards and all. But you'll be amazed to hear that, Starbucks sells more gift cards than any other big box stores in US. So that's what the strength of this organization has been. That's how they have made a household name for themselves, and how they make you feel. This is all about their people, and how they have made people so sensitive to their coffee that, if it is not Starbucks, then I'm not going, kind of a thing. And with that definitely comes a lot of challenges and then opportunities. So Ravinder, if you can go to the next slide, so I'll talk about some of the challenges associated with this strength only, because you have developed a great business model, and then you will definitely feel some of the challenges that is coming out of it as well. So in terms of the challenges, obviously you have made huge customization of the drinks. If you look at the Starbucks range of drinks, it's like not just milk. It will be sugar. What kind of sugar do you want? Do you want any flavors like vanilla? They have, various, they will add ice creams to it. So that customization also brings, so they have a typical time of serving the coffee, but the amount of customization they have offered to their customers, that time criteria, like, the typically, if I hypothetically say that, type of the time of serving the coffee per cup is about a minute and a half. But since the customization that they have offered to their customers is so humongous, today that customize is throwing challenges for them to deliver that number of cups in a day. So that's one kind of challenge. Then, product quality, there are, they mostly get their beans from different parts of Africa, Latin America. But naturally, there are political turmoils, challenges in terms of managing their supply chain, and now all of you know how much supply chain constraint is coming. So that's kind of, challenging them in terms of their product quality, and that's kind of hitting them a little bit on their customer focus. And this enhanced menu that they have built in, like, I said that they sell coffee, along with that lot of customized drinks, food items, etc. That's also kind of throwing them a bit of the challenge. And it's the, now it's like, many of their product will be seemingly seem different, because they have enhanced that. You may say that, I didn't find any difference in what I had in a cappuccino and a latte. They both seemed very similar to me. So those kind of challenges, because it's a very subtle taste that you have developed, right? So now, because the, in terms of the customization that is offered, there are so many of them, you actually do not feel that difference. And these are the challenges they are living with. But that also throws some bit of opportunity. And when you talk about opportunity, obviously, I'm sure a lot of you might have seen COVID changed the world, right? COVID came and COVID kind of transformed the way we do business, the way we think, the way we work, the way we live. And in terms of that, similarly to that, these challenges have kind of given them the opportunity. Like, one hand, you say that, there is a challenge in terms of satisfying the customer, but at the same time, you can think of it, if you can address that, then you are increasing the customer satisfaction. And that kind of, helps the company to grow. And how they are doing it, they're basically trying to customize the product for you at best. I know that's very challenging, and that's part of the challenge as well, but they are trying their level best, and particularly focusing through the digital means, that they are trying to address the customer need and customer satisfaction. And they are offering, trying to increase their base through free offerings, different kind of new products that they have launched, and then their target segments as well. So they are very smart in targeting, like the US particularly. A lot of most of the people love pets, and pets love ice creams, by the way, and creams. So coffee, Starbucks is the only coffee chain in US which offers a pup cup. So the pups are the small, small pets. So mostly, US people will have their pets when they go out for a walk. You will see a huge number of people walking into the store, and that's free of cost. The best part about it, that's free of cost. So what they have a pup cup. It's a small cup where they offer the cream, different kind of flavors, vanilla, etc. So if you go and ask for a pup cup, they will immediately hand it over to you without asking for any money. Although people drop, as part of courtesy, people do leave some tips, etc. But that's how they are kind of, creating and capturing the imagination of people. And then another part of the strategy that they have adopted is international expansion. I'm sure when I think I last remember in India, Starbucks got into a partnership with Tata's to enter the market way back in 2012 or 13, I guess. Similarly, they have expanded, in huge number in China, like, because China is another, like, growth market similar to India. So internationally, they are trying to expand, and see, how exactly they can leverage their expertise that they have built and the name that they have. On a whole, I would say, that Starbucks is all about an experience, and this experience is what they have sold. Their their partners or employees, they know this craft of making a perfect coffee for you. I would say a significant percentage of working population in US, be it in the village or any big cities like New York, the first drink of the day is served by Starbucks, and which is a huge statement. So if you have to think about it, they have sold this experience to the people. They have made it such a household name and make you feel home that you end up going there. There is a significant number of people who will go to other coffee stores as well. But this experience that they are talking and selling is very, very unique. And I just thought that today's session, I can talk about it. Next page, I think that will be probably the end of the presentation. I know this presentation might not be as impressive as Ravinder sir's presentation was, but I'll be very happy to entertain any questions that I can answer, or any other questions about anything else, my experience with Starbucks, or my experience in general, any career advice that I can give in maybe, I guess, how much time we are left with, Ravinder? Maybe 5 minutes or 7 minutes?
Yeah, we have about or about 10 minutes or so, but I think I'm glad that there is an opportunity for people to interact, because that's how we will also know whether the message is really reaching across the people, and how they're finding it. And I think there was some really rich information, because to be just putting things in perspective, this information which Partha very smoothly presented in simple terms, and the way he told it as a story, These are the items which are being taught in the MBA schools in US and in Canada. So they have dedicated case studies through which they do this kind of stuff. So I think the information was rich, and I hope everyone understood the deep insights as to why something was why Starbucks is Starbucks today, and what are those things. So I think it was so nicely and in an uncomplicated manner that you presented. Because there is a tendency with everyone who knows about it to dump it in a more complicated infographics and stuff like that to make it more, but you really simplified, you uncomplicated, and I really hope that the audience and the people here, they could really understand the richness of this information, and so many things to learn from the whole thing. So I think it was great. So Simranjeet ji, do we have questions? Uh, can we encourage some questions? It'll help us to really make some sense of the time which Partha really took out from his extremely busy schedule in this one.
Yes, sir. So, do you have any question, participants? You can ask question.
Okay, so what we will do is we will create a quiz which we will send to everybody, and there will be certain marks, and then we can get some response. But I'm just hoping that this was more of it's a very different kind of session, I can assure you. The sessions which we're used to giving or used to taking, they're very structured, theoretical, template based. This is a very conversational way of where we wanted to connect with everybody, wanted to introduce this idea. So I'm really hoping that the recordings are available to the people, and we can actually, we'll open the channel, both me and Partha. The email IDs are with Kishore sir and Sunil sir. So very open to get any questions, any thoughts of students or faculty, and we are very happy to have follow-ups and things, and any feedback which will also help us make it more interesting maybe down the line. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this in-depth case study on Starbucks. This lecture surely highlighted the unique market strategies and approach. Thank you again for joining us on such short notice. It was our privilege to have you among us. With this, we come to an end of our highly enlightening and educative webinar. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Sushma Sharma, Assistant Professor, Plant Pathology, Dr. Khemsingh Kal College of Agriculture, to please deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Simran. Honorable Vice Chancellor and President Kalgidhar Trust, Dr. Davinder Singh, our invited speakers, Mr. Davinder Singh and Mr. Partha De, respected deans, faculty members, and Eternal University, and dear students. It is my honor and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks. First of all, I'm grateful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor and President Kalgidhar Trust for his guidance and immense support. I would like to express my gratitude to our sponsored institutions, Innovation Council, MOEs, Innovation Cell, and AICTE. I'm extremely grateful for our esteemed invited speakers, Mr. Ravinder Singh and Mr. Partha De, for addressing the audience and sparing the time from their busy schedule. I'm also thankful to our Dean Research and Chairman, Akal Innovation and Entrepreneurship Cell, Sarbat Dabala, Dr. NP Singh, for his support and hard work. I would like to thank the organizers of this webinar and the technical support of IT department for conducting the webinar successfully. Once again, I would like to thank to all the participants for joining this informative webinar. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
I request all the participants please fill the feedback form that has been shared in chat box. I request all the participants please fill the feedback form that has been shared in chat box. Thank you.
Thank you. With this, our today's session comes to an end. Hope you had a great learning. Thank you.
Thank you.